Welcome to another list of Nintendo Switch ports that shouldn't work, but they do. They work really, really well. And I'm starting off with, unfortunately, a game that you cannot play no more, which is Overwatch 1. You can play Overwatch 2, although this is the week of its launch, and it's been absolutely shocking. I've literally only been able to get onto it today, which, as of recording, is the 8th of October, and that's just a terrible, terrible launch. But Overwatch was... and still is one of my favourite games. I have been playing a little bit of Overwatch 2. They funked it up a bit, so I'll have a video coming out about that next week. But Overwatch 1 worked incredibly well on the Nintendo Switch. It had full cross-play capabilities. Now, with Overwatch 2, it does have cross-progression, so I can play my PC version and my Switch version at any time and continue on with my one account, which is a godsend, because... before I had to unlock different things on the Switch. Even though it was still using my Battle.net account, it didn't register what I had on my PC version, and the PC version was what I started with all those years ago. But Overwatch 1, it worked really, really well. Now Overwatch 2 is free. I might make a video on Overwatch 2 for the Nintendo Switch in the future, but it's pretty much the same. So yeah, Overwatch was a great port to the Nintendo Switch. I was just as shocked as anybody when they ported Dark Souls to the Nintendo Switch, and yes, it works incredibly well. It works just as well as it did back on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and is still just as good. Now, of course, it doesn't have a lot of the more modern mechanics and whatnot you'd find in like Elden Ring or Sekiro or anything like that, but Dark Souls is still a really good game and still incredibly difficult. Of course, this is where the... even though Demon's Souls was the first one, that was more underground and niche, whereas Dark Souls really brought it into the mainstream, and that's what people, you know, they recognize as Dark Souls. But regardless, if you have a Nintendo Switch, the Dark Souls port is well worth giving a go if you just want to get good on the go. Definitely a must-have port. Civilization 6 is another game that if you'd have told me is going to be ported to the Nintendo Switch, I wouldn't have believed you, but here we are. It works incredibly well on the Switch, and is just Civilization. It's obviously a very long-winded game. It's not a game that you can pretty much pick up and put down and, you know, play in short bursts. It requires a lot of patience and a lot of time, but the game is still very, very good and is narrated by Sean Bean, which is obviously always awesome. And some minor spoiler alert, Sean Bean does not die in this game, which is genuinely shocking, as the dude dies in nearly everything he's in. But if you are a strategy fanatic and you are looking for something on the Switch to play which is very in-depth and something you can just lie on your bed or sit on your sofa and just get engrossed in a bit of strategy whilst you're trying to watch something peculiar on the TV, then I think Civilization 6 is a definite must-buy. Immortals Phoenix Rising is actually a game I have twice. I have it on the Nintendo Switch, and I also have it on the Xbox Series X as well. And although it is blatantly a Breath of the Wild clone made by Ubisoft, it's still in its own right a very, very good game with absolutely tons of content, not including the DLC that you can get. You can obviously run around and fight, and you can climb anything, you can get wings so you can glide, and you can unlock more and more abilities as the game progresses. There are dungeons, there are side quests, there are all different kinds of weapons and armor that you can collect to make yourself look good. You can upgrade all the different aspects of your character, like stamina, health, attack, etc., and unlocking new combat moves and whatnot. And the map is absolutely huge. So yeah, even though it is like Breath of the Wild is still a better made game, but Immortals Phoenix Rising should definitely not be slept on, and it works fantastically on the Nintendo Switch and is just another great open world game to pick up and play.
Roger that.
Another strategy game I was genuinely shocked to see come to the Nintendo Switch was XCOM 2, and this is the complete edition which comes with all the DLC. I don't think XCOM 2 is as good as XCOM Enemy Within, and yes, I know XCOM Enemy Within is not the first XCOM. The XCOM games date way back into the 90s, I know this. But with XCOM 2, you get a good strategy game with permadeath on your characters, and you can rank your characters up, and you know, as long as they survive. Now, it is one of those frustrating strategy games where even though an enemy is right in front of your face, if you've got someone who's an absolute tit box with a weapon, they'll just shoot off to the side, which is genuinely annoying. But apart from that, if you like a game where it's just permadeath and turn-based strategy combat, then XCOM 2 definitely has you covered. Just a small warning is that it's not one of the better ports of the Nintendo Switch. It works, but the frames do drop from time to time, so you have been warned.
Adjusting sights! They got me flanked!
I need medical attention now!
And last but certainly not least is a game that when it originally came out, no one could run it at max graphics. It was synonymous with being, you need an absolute powerhouse of a machine, when it turned out that it was just very badly optimized. But Crysis is now available portably on the Nintendo Switch, and not just the first one. You can actually get Crysis 2 and 3 on the Switch. I haven't played 2 and 3 yet, so I cannot attest to their playability on the Switch, but the first one is definitely one that works. Now, when it first came out, it was a bit janky, and it is a slightly blurry and whatnot, but handheld, it does look pretty good, and although it's not my favourite in the line of shooters, first-person shooters, it's still a pretty competent and pretty good game, and one that I think is definitely worth picking up on the cheap. Cheaper than it has been going on offer on the Nintendo eShop, because I do see it go on offer all the time, but it could go a little cheaper, because after all, they are old games. And it does miff me that Nintendo, although make absolute hits with their exclusive games, they do love overcharging the shit, which is just a massive annoyance for me. But if you'd like to play a first-person shooter where you can run really fast, you can go invisible, you can activate an overshield, utilize different weapons, and I think this was the first game where you could pull your gun up and change the attachments in-game the way you do here. I think it's the first time. Of course, now Battlefield 2042 has that mechanic, but I believe this is the first time it was used. But, however, if that is for you, then I think Crysis is a definite must-have for yourself. But please let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Have you got any of these games on this list, or are you thinking about picking any of them up? Are there any ports that you'd like to see me talk about? Please drop it in the comments below, and thank you very much for watching.